Radio, Philly presents, and Jim, Chet, Chesko.
It's Wednesday, June 2nd, 2021. Welcome to the Philly Pressbox Radio Roundtable, brought to you tonight by the Irish Rover Station House in Langhorne, PA, and Allstate Insurance in Westchester, PA. I'm Bill Furman. I'll be your host tonight, along with my partner, Jim, Chet, Chesko. Hey, Chet, the Sixers lead the Wizards 3-1, and your boy JoJo has a boo-boo. We'll talk a lot about that tonight for sure. Phillies are struggling, heading in the wrong direction, and a magical June 1 date has arrived for the Eagles in the NFL. Maybe the most important happening this week, though, Chet, in sports, is that stadiums and arenas are opening up to full capacity soon. You're going to be going to some ball games, I know. I know that excites you. There's plenty going on in the Philly sports world.
Yeah, exciting times for sure, Bill. I mean, as we speak, there is a full house at the Wells Fargo Center as they prepare to tip off for Game 5. First time in 15 months. That's the case there since early March of last year. The Sixers, of course, trying to finish off the Wizards this evening and move on to the second round. Doing so this evening, without Joel Embiid. I have a hunch we'll talk about that at some point. I'm sure the center is rocking, though. That's going to be a whole lot of fun down there. The Phillies bats finally woke up last night, Bill. They won by 2 touchdowns over the Cincinnati Reds, 17-3, 7 home runs. My goodness, they should have saved some of that up for the next few games. They'll probably score just 1 or 2 now in the next game. And Bill, it is June. So how was your Memorial Day weekend?
My Memorial Day weekend was actually good. I got to be off. I haven't had much time off lately since I semi-unretired. It's been more completely unretired. So I actually had Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday off, and I really enjoyed the heck out of it. Didn't do anything, kind of just hung out, did some things around here, barbecued, hung out in the pool, and did all that Memorial Day type of fun stuff.
Yeah, we had crappy weather here, rainy weather on Saturday and Sunday, but I did a couple of things also that I haven't done in ages, because of COVID. I'll talk about that later on. And we also had a nice family picnic on Monday. That was fun. The weather a little better on Monday, and I ate way too much. So I'm not going to be stepping on the scale for at least a week.
I hear you. Hey, summertime, and people are getting back out. We talked about stadiums being filled or opening up. People need it, and I think I want to talk to you some more about that later on in the show, though, because I got some thoughts and want to get your take on that as well. But hey, the June 1 thing with the NFL has now come, and there was a lot of talk about Zach Ertz and June 1 kind of being married together, of being able to move Ertz due to the salary cap hits and all that stuff. What do you think? What you got a thought on Ertz? Is he coming? Any chance he's going to play for the Eagles? I'm thinking not.
I'm going to say 1.8% chance that he is back. He's not coming back. I highly doubt it. They're just waiting to make the right deal. Hopefully get, something for him rather than just having to cut him. But I guess it's not as big a deal after June 1st, the way it works out. So I think something's going to happen between now and our next show, Bill.
Yeah, well, I think so. It's going to happen soon. And just for a little detail on what the June 1st is all about, what the teams are allowed to do by waiting until June 1st is they can essentially, these hefty contracts, that they can defer the salary cap that comes along with that, and especially where players' bonuses are involved. So there's also a little loophole in the rule where with Alshon Jeffries and Malik Jackson, they were able to basically do the June 1 thing, but they did it back in March because it's a loophole where you're allowed to do that to 2 players. And that's why they were able to cut them loose. And now Zach Ertz, which all 3 of those moves are going to free up a lot of cap space.
Yeah, and I wonder where Ertz is going to wind up. We saw some talks and reports that maybe Buffalo would be a landing spot for him. So Bills are an up-and-coming team, playoff team last year, good young quarterback. So, hey, that wouldn't be too bad.
Yeah, and the other thing, a lot of talk about Indianapolis as well, and there's also talk about, because I've been following them a little bit, Carson Wentz getting a lot of rave reviews starting with the mini camp and all that, and reaching out to teammates. And it's going to be really interesting to see what happens to number 11, who's no longer number 11.
Yeah, exactly. Number 2 now.
Number 2.
Yeah, and we want him to do well. We want him to start and do well because, that will help the Eagles in terms of getting a better draft pick next year. He's got to play, I guess, 75% of the snaps. So, go Carson.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? He's in the other division, the other conference, so he can do as well as he wants.
Ideally,
Super Bowl Sunday. So
ideally, he would play well, but they would only go, say, 8-8. That way the draft pick is higher up for the Eagles.
Right. The worse the record, the higher the pick, right?
Yeah.
For the Birds.
Exactly. But play 75% of the snaps. Yep.
Right. So we'll see how it all plays out, but it's going to be interesting. I think the Eagles have a lot of stuff going on. We didn't see a lot of names over the holiday weekend and all that, but a lot of good things coming out of minicamp and a lot of new faces, and we'll see. It won't be long, Chet, and we'll be strapping them up. Mid-August will be here before you know it.
Yeah, well, football is a year-round sport in terms of, things to talk about. We know that. And, there are already OTAs and always trade rumors and free agent rumors and who's going to get cut and so much to discuss. And, of course, we have the Phillies to talk about. We'll get to them as well. And we have some great guests tonight, Bill.
We do. We got one of our old favorites. I hate to call him old. Bucks County Courier Times sports columnist Tom Moore. He'll be talking Sixers and some Eagles, too. Tom, of course, can't be with us because he's covering the Sixers, but you had a chance to sit down with him, and so we'll go all into that. And we also have a first-time guest, Chet, Sam Wilson. She hosts a new weekly baseball show with former Philly legends Charlie Manuel and Larry Bowa. Down the line with Charlie and Bo on NBC Sports Philadelphia. So we know about Tom. So give us a little insight on Sam.
Well, I remember Sam Wilson from her doing the morning sports updates on 97.5 The Fanatic in 2019 and early 2020. Met her a couple of times at 97.5's Fan Fest, as a matter of fact. A lovely young lady. And then after the pandemic hit, she unfortunately was a layoff victim at the radio station. That was just about a year ago. That happens way too often in the radio business. But since then, I know she's been doing a podcast with another young lady and a good friend of hers, Jessica Town, Babes on Broad. And then last week, we got the announcement about this new show that she's doing with Charlie Manuel and Larry Bowa that debuted over the weekend, and I watched it. She does a real good job with it. So I reached out to her to see if she could come on to talk about it, and she agreed to do so. So we're looking forward to having her on live with us this evening.
Fantastic. Can't wait to meet her and find out what she's all about, what's going on with Charlie and Bo. Good stuff. Well, hey, as we said, Tom Moore couldn't join us live because of the covering the Sixers tonight, but you did get a chance to sit down with him. Tell us about that. Tell us what Tom's thinking, and then we'll talk maybe about JoJo's boo-boo.
All right. Yeah, had the Sixers been able to complete the sweep of the Wizards on Monday evening, Tom would have been here with us live, but since they couldn't get it done, thanks largely to that injury that you mentioned,
the boo-boo.
There's a game 5 tonight. Tom is there covering it. So we pre-taped our chat last night. And as you noted at the top, we know Tom pretty well. This is actually his 15th appearance, believe it or not, on our show. And as a columnist, he's just all over the entire Philly sports scene. And right now he is particularly, of course, focusing on the Sixers, as you can understand. So if I can find the video now, I will do so and get it going with Tom. Give me just 1 second here. And here we go. Tom Moore coming your way. Here it comes. Years since we last chatted with this guy, shame on us, but he is now back to talk Sixers and whatever else we might get to. A great sports columnist from the Bucks County Courier Times. His name is Tom Moore. Hey, Tom, how are you?
Fine, Chad. It was good. It's good. It's been a while. I was actually on work release, so now I don't have to have the ankle bracelet anymore. It's nice.
Excellent. All right. Full disclosure now for our viewers and listeners. Tom and I are talking Tuesday evening, a full 24 hours ahead of the Sixers and Wizards Game 5 tip-off. And as we speak, Joel Embiid is listed as doubtful We'll see if he's playing or not. Probably not, but you never know. What we do know, though, Tom, is that Ben Simmons has been a guy whom fans have some very strong views about, very mixed views. And one thing that the numbers do confirm, his foul shooting has been dreadful this series, 25% through 4 games. He missed his first 11 free throws. Tom, Simmons has never been a great foul shooter, but it seems like he's gotten worse since the All-Star break. How come?
I think a lot of it is confidence, Chet. I think that's one of the reasons, sometimes he doesn't attack offensively, go to the basket, because I think he's concerned he'll get fouled and have to go to the line. And I think that, may be a reason why he doesn't do it more often. But yeah, he shot better in the first half. And then I know the last 10 games, I think he shot barely 50%. And you can just see he's not confident at the line. He's lost whatever. He doesn't have a good feel, like a rhythm. He doesn't bend his knees right. He just looks kind of, like he's searching out there. And that's not the time or place, to search. But I'm really surprised. I recall Scott Brooks, the Wizards coach, back in, I think it was November of 2017. He fouled Brooks 12 times. He shot 24 free throws in the fourth quarter of a game, and they got back. They were down big, and they didn't win, but they made it competitive. And I honestly thought Brooks might do it in game 2 or game 3, like he did, in game 4, where it was a tie game with 3 minutes to go. Foul him, put him on the line. He makes 1 of 2. You score. Now you're up 1. Same thing. He makes 1 of 2. Now it's tied. Then you score. It's up 2. So they were +2 when they did that 3 times, when they fouled him in game 4. And I would not be surprised if he does it again. And I think, you can say whatever you want. You shouldn't do it. It's not the right thing to do. But there's one solution. Make your free throws, period.
Yeah, now Doc Rivers will have none of the idea, but a lot of fans and even some radio people think Simmons should be taken out of the game with, the 2 to 5 minute left in the game situation, in tight games like Mondays, of course, because of the possible hack-a-bend strategy. Would that be wise for the Sixers to do that or not because of everything else that he brings to the table? Yeah,
it's really hard because if he weren't so versatile and he wasn't such a good passer and good defender and good rebounder and finds his teammates so well. If he didn't do so many things so well, I would say definitely take him out of the game. And I understand why you say that, why people say that, but it's tough because if he's not going to be aggressive offensively, and if he's a concern, now they can't do that hack-a-bend in the final 2 minutes, but you can foul him if he's dribbling the ball. You can go over and foul him, and that's not illegal. So I say probably not. I would say if it's late in the game and you have the ball and it's just offense, defense, I might consider it just for the one possession because you have George Hill now who's playing really well and is a really good free throw shooter. And you have some really good shooters. Curry's a good free throw shooter and ball handler. So you have some guys that can do those kinds of things and help you. But I'd say probably not. It's probably not at this juncture, and I think Doc Rivers is worried about his confidence.
Agreed. Hey, we need to talk about Tyrese Maxey. Has he made a case, do you think, that he deserves even more playing time going forward?
He certainly should be in the 10-man rotation. Right now, I would put him in ahead of Shake Milton. He had kind of replaced Korkmaz, but Korkmaz had a good game off the bench in game 4. He's fearless. That's the thing. Yeah. He goes to the basket. His defense has gotten better, and he knocked down a big 3-pointer in game 4. So he is improving in the areas where he really needed improvement. And he could really have an even bigger role next year going forward. And I've said it, and I still say it: if Thibault can shoot the 3-pointer, he could start in Danny Green's role next year. But if he's not a threat on offense, you notice now they almost never play Thibault, Simmons, and Howard together because you can't play 3 guys who don't look for their shot because you make it too easy on the defense. So Rivers has to kind of watch that.
Absolutely. Hey, other than Joel Embiid's health, of course, and Ben's free throw shooting, what are the concerns for the Sixers and their chances of playing all through June?
Embiid's health is number 1 on the list. I mean, he's had
issues
all 4 years, and this year he was seemingly healthy. He missed, I think, 12 games in March and April with a left knee contusion. And now this is right knee, although it looked like it was his tailbone. So I don't know if it's connected or a nerve or whatever. It's very vague. They're just calling it right knee soreness. But I think the bench is a concern. I think, Tobias Harris late in games. Is he a closer? He looked like he was the first 3 games in the series. and he really struggled. I think he had 7 of his shots blocked. He just didn't have a good feel. He almost reminded me of Clarence Weatherspoon, the way Weatherspoon would lead the league in getting a shot blocked. Gafford, I think, blocked 4 or 5 of his shots. And Simmons late in games. Is he going to do enough to prevent you from playing 4 on 5? I think those are all concerns. But I think the bench is the biggest one because you don't want to have to play your starters 40 minutes even a night, even though the games are every other day. You need at least them to hold the fort.
Speaking of Embiid, given how much time he misses, I'm asking this for a friend, we'll call it. Is he soft?
Yeah. I know. Some people were saying, well, Carson Wentz threw a touchdown pass with a torn ACL, and McNabb played with whatever injury he had. I don't know that he's soft. He's had an unbelievable year, but I still don't understand why a 7 foot, 295-pound guy is on the ground so much.
Yeah.
He should be knocking guys to the ground. He shouldn't be falling all the time. And every time he falls, you increase the chances of landing wrong, rolling your ankle, or doing something. I don't think he's soft. I think they're very cautious with him, still. But yeah, it's not the I'm going to play no matter what mentality either. You know what I mean?
Hey, assuming the Sixers do take care of business and finish out the series with the Wizards, they'll play, of course, either the Hawks or Knicks next. Atlanta up 3-1 heading into their Wednesday night game. Either of those teams present any major concerns for the Sixers?
Well, the Knicks are a better defensive team, have an experienced coach, but really had not played well, and were fortunate to come from behind and win that game too. Trae Young is a star, and the Sixers do tend to have trouble defending, like wings who are quick and create their own shot. He's had some big games against them. It's a good team, but it's not a team that the Sixers, it shouldn't be a 7-game series, assuming Embiid is healthy. But the conference final, assuming all goes well and whether it's the Bucks, who, I was really surprised just really took the Heat apart, or the Nets, I think that's when it's going to start to get really interesting. Again, assuming Embiid's healthy. If Embiid's not healthy and misses a couple games in the second round, all bets are off.
Yeah. So we're all looking for a Sixers-Nets Eastern Conference final. Who comes out of the West, Tom?
Yeah, a lot of people thought the Lakers going in, but with Anthony Davis's health, I don't know. The Clippers lost the first 2 games at home to the Mavericks, and then won 2 in Dallas. And Luka Doncic is banged up a little bit. The Jazz, nobody really respects and doesn't think they're kind of, I would like to see Phoenix. I don't know if the Suns, can do it, but I would really I think that would be a really interesting team. With Chris Paul's experience and Booker, you have a star. It's a really tough call. I'll say the Suns. I don't necessarily think, but I would like to see Phoenix because I think it would be interesting, and it's always nice to see a kind of changing of the guard. Agreed.
Hey, a couple of quick Eagles questions, Tom. How would you rate Howie Roseman's offseason? It's been interesting.
Yeah, it really has. Everybody went gaga over the first round pick, and I still don't really understand trading down, then trading up. Whatever. Then you take a guy who's had multiple 8 torn ACLs in the second round. I mean, the move everybody's excited about is obviously Devontae Smith, and everybody is raving about that. It's really kind of TBA. I think it was better than his previous offseason, shall we say, which is not saying a whole heck of a lot because the drafting has just been abominable. I don't know. It's almost like that Andy Reid mentality of, I know something you don't. We're not going to follow our draft board. I'm taking this guy because I like him or because I think he's going to do, and it doesn't work out. But they really need to start hitting on some of these 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round guys, which they really haven't done. And that's one of the reasons their depth is so bad because they're drafting these guys who can't play, and they cut them after a couple of years. When that's a 4th round pick, that's a missed opportunity, and they've had a lot of them.
Yeah, for me, it's going to come down to what happens with Landon Dickerson, not necessarily this season, but longer term. I mean, they took Sidney Jones a few years ago, who was injured. They said, he's a steal when he's healthy.
Would have been a first-round pick, et cetera, et cetera. Yep.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that's probably the bellwether for if this is a successful draft or not, because that's awful high to take somebody that you have some significant health risk and is not healthy right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What is your confidence level in the new head coach, Nick Sirianni, and in Jalen Hurts as quarterback?
Yeah, Sirianni, I was listening to him driving down to, I forget I guess I was going to a Phillies game or it was a Sixers game. He had an afternoon press conference during the OTAs or whatever. And said, we have to get 1% better every day. And like you envision like a high school coach or a Division III college coach saying that, So I'm curious how the Brandon Grahams and the Fletcher Coxes must be kind of like, really? It's a different mentality, and they won't say they're rebuilding, but clearly that's what's going on now. This is even with, signing Kerrigan and getting, a veteran who can rush the passer. They clearly have some work to do. Jalen Hurts, I think this is kind of his year to see, is he a franchise quarterback? Because his numbers were excellent in the first half of his games, when he started, but not as good in the second half, which means defenses adjusted, and the Eagles and Peterson and Hurts did not. So they need to figure out at halftime if that's going to be the case and things are going to change. They got to change some things up and make him more effective. I think it could kind of go either way, really. It's hard to say at this point if he's, a fringe starter in the NFL or more than that, or maybe a career backup. And there's really no way to know at this point.
Yeah, so many variables, and the offensive line, they have to stay healthy. But based on what we know, Tom, a 17-game schedule, how many wins for the Eagles this fall?
Yeah, I think they're kind of like a 6-11 kind of season, something like that would be my guess. I know it's early, and they still can make some moves and so on, but there are just so many holes and so many areas that are not really solid, and there's been an erosion in the talent level over the years. I think that's going to catch up. Even the receivers, Jalen Reagor, had an okay rookie year, but how's he going to be? How's Devontae Smith going to handle? I know he was good at getting separation in college, but they're going to be very physical with him, bigger, stronger, with a 165-pound guy. He was healthy, but, they're going to get up on top of him and really push him around like they used to do with Todd Pinkston. And can he get off the line and, get into the secondary? Defensive questions, new coordinator, new coach, a lot of new things, Yeah, I think even in the NFC East with the question marks, I think 6-11 or 7-10 at this point is reasonable.
Sounds about right. Always lots to discuss on the Philly sports scene. Tom, congrats on the work release. Follow this fine writer and columnist on Twitter at Tom Moore Philly, and let's hope for a deep Sixers run. Tom, great to talk to you again.
Thanks a lot, Chet. Anytime.
Hey, Chet, good stuff there. Tom was very close to saying he was soft. He kind of did say he was soft. It just is what it is.
Dude, you ever have a bad meniscus, a torn meniscus?
I actually have surgery. Yeah,
and you can have surgery, or you can try to suffer through it and just, let it get a little better. But ultimately, if you're an athlete, you're going to need the surgery.
Okay.
Give him a break, man.
Listen, he's day to day.
That's what they're saying.
He's not out. He's day to day, which means played today.
He's out tonight. They don't need him tonight.
You
rest,
gonna win.
You err on the side of caution because they're going to win without him tonight, and he'll be ready for the second series, hopefully. Or it's more serious than we know, and he won't be ready for the second series. But there's no reason to play him tonight if he's, in a lot of pain and there's a chance of him hurting more.
Well, I'll tell you this, and then we won't beat on this because we'll have plenty of time next week when he sits out then too. If you were watching any hockey, the Canadians and the Maple Leafs were winning the series 3-1. Made an errant pass that cost them a game to make it 3-2. All of a sudden, Carey Price gets hot. Now it's 3-3. Guess who won game 4? The team that was losing 3-1. There are no gimmies. There are no we're going to win tonight nonsense. That just don't get it. You got to win tonight. Get it done.
Shouldn't we be talking about insurance right about now, Bill?
I don't think you want any more part of this conversation. But we will move on because your couch is probably getting more mileage than your car right now, Chet. It's time to start saving with Allstate's pay-as-you-go auto insurance.
Well, you got that right, at least, Bill. Yeah, Allstate's pay-as-you-go auto insurance puts you in control. You only pay for the miles you drive with the same full coverage that a traditional policy offers. Pay-per-mile insurance gives customers greater control of their insurance costs. See how much you can save with pay-per-mile car insurance. Call your local agent, and in Westchester, Pennsylvania, that is Dave Lavoie. Call Dave at 610-430-0700. Once again, that number is 610-430-0700, and start to save more now that you are driving less. And hey, Bill, this guy you'll see in here right now continues to amaze, and I will talk more about him later in the show.
Hey, everybody, it's Willie Nile here, and you're listening to Chet and Bill on Philly Pressbox Radio. You lucky people.
Well, I tell you what, I am excited to hear about your review of the show that you got to see Willie live this weekend. I'm sure you'll be talking about that a little bit later. But hey, as you said in the opening, when you introduced the first-time guest for us tonight in Sam Wilson. So let's welcome Sam to Philly Pressbox Radio, and let's see what's going on. Hello, Sam.
Oh, hi, guys. Sorry, let me adjust this one. Oh, there we go. Hi, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, Sam. Great to see you. Hey, for anybody who did miss the earlier part of the show, we noted that we first got to know you through your time at 97.5 The Fanatic, where you did sports updates in the mornings. And you've also been hosting or co-hosting the Babes on Broad podcast. I always want to say Babes on Broadway, but I have to stop. Babes on Broad, as in Broad Street. And something brand new that just premiered over the weekend. You're hosting a TV show on NBC Sports Philadelphia called Down the Line with Charlie and Bo. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. But again, welcome to the show, Sam.
Thanks, guys. I'm excited. It's been a while. I feel like, I mean, obviously the TV and Babes on Broad, but that's not really face-to-face, you know? So it's cool. I like doing live. I miss it.
Yeah. Now, we're going to talk about the show, like I said, in a few minutes. But for people wondering who didn't maybe know of you and your time at 97.5 The Fanatic, what's your background? Did you grow up in Philly, and how did you decide to get into the sports media world?
So I actually grew up in Coatesville, Pennsylvania, so probably about 45 minutes outside southwest of the city. And I went to Coatesville High School, came up in all the elementary schools, and I actually found out I wanted to do sports reporting in the 7th grade because we did a report on what we wanted to be when we grew up in Mr. Noonan's class, my English teacher at that time. And I actually wanted to be an oceanographer. And then when I was researching it with my dad, I remember reading something about how they could be out at sea for months at a time and stuff. And my first question to my dad was, well, Dad, how am I going to watch the Eagles? and then he was like, well, maybe you should do something in the sports world. So I started looking around. I did like athletic training, all that stuff. Wasn't me. And then I realized I loved Erin Andrews and I loved all the girls on the sidelines. So I was like, I could totally do that. I have the personality. I actually used to host shows when I was little with my cats. So it fit perfectly. And then I've been on pursuit ever since then. And I went to Lock Haven University. Doesn't really have a broadcast program. So I went for communications and then minored in journalism and electronic media. And then just kind of made my own path from there.
Mm-hmm. Well, so you mentioned your dad a couple times. I guess he was a big sports fan. And is that where you got it from? And one of those diehard sports Philly sports families?
Oh, 100%. So I actually consider myself a fan of the game. And I think in this field, you kind of have to. I mean, obviously we have our favorites, but you can't be biased. It's like journalism #1, you know? So my family, my brother was always like, oh, you're not a real Philly fan. Like you're a fan of the game, blah, blah, blah kind of thing. My mom is a bigger sports fan than my dad was, which is hilarious. She's still diehard. But my dad, yeah, we used to listen to sports radio all the time with my dad in the garage. And that's actually how I found out about Mike Missinelli. And that's how I got in to my job at the Fanatic, because I interviewed him my very first ever college assignment. And then he actually got me my television job now with Down the Line too. So shout out Mike Missinelli.
Awesome. Well, Bill and I go way back with our sports memories because, you know, we're ancient. But your formative sports years, I guess, would be the latter part of the Allen Iverson era with the Sixers, the Donovan McNabb era Eagles, who were always pretty competitive, went to the NFC Championship game 5 times, Super Bowl once. And then the Phillies great teams of 2006 to 2011. Some good memories there, and certainly not a bad time to be a Philadelphia sports fan.
Oh, no, not at all. it's the type of atmosphere and the time in the city with all those sports teams that really make you a diehard. And that's what I grew up in. I just loved the enthusiasm and the passion of the city. You know, I remember vividly, probably one of my first sports memories was Allen Iverson walking over Tyronn Lue. And then obviously working with Trey Thomas on the morning show was insane because the Eagles at that time were my favorite team out of everything, my favorite sport overall. And then it kind of transitioned perfectly. I guess maybe I never even correlated this, but because of the World Series team in 2008 and how good they were during that stretch of years you mentioned. And it's just so crazy. I didn't get to go to the parade for that because I was only 13. So I had to go to school. But all my siblings got to go. My parents got to go. Everybody else got to go besides me. But it's so cool that we got to live that. But I don't think at that time, because I was so young, I realized the pain that it was causing, that we were getting so close and not going. Besides, I do remember bawling my eyes out when we lost the Super Bowl. Yeah.
Well, Sam, I hate to tell you, but when you're old and crotchety like Chet and I, you've been fortunate that you've grown up with all good teams in Philly for the most part, except for the process portion of that mess. But we got to see the 70s and the 60s when there were some bad sports teams here in town.
I know. That's what's interesting to me. Like, I think it's easy because I grew up, like you said, with the good teams. And then even when the process was happening, I was away at school. So I wasn't really even around. Like, I wouldn't even try to watch the teams or the games because they were that bad. But I would catch like the highlights and stuff and what I need to know from Twitter. But it's interesting for, like you said, the older crowd, like you guys. What made you Philadelphia fans? I mean, you didn't have I guess you have big names with the Sixers and the Flyers and the Phillies back then, but you had to wait around until you got some success, right?
Well, we both grew up in Eastern Pennsylvania. I was up in the coal region, Schuylkill County. Bill was a Delco guy. So, you're provincial. You go with who everybody else in the area roots for, except for like the stinking Cowboys fans who get somehow thrown in there, but can't stand that.
Well, and the other thing too is there wasn't all this mass media.
Right.
There was one game on, and that was the Eagles.
Oh, that's a great point.
Whoever, there might have been a late afternoon game where you got the stinking Cowboys, all the time. But, there just wasn't a ton of games to watch. If you were a sports person, you watched the home teams because that's all there was.
Sam, we didn't have cell phones or internet when we were kids.
It's hard to believe. I didn't technically either. I got my first phone. It was a track phone when I was 11. So it only worked if my mom bought me minutes for emergencies. But
oh, my. All right, let's get to the TV show. It is called Down the Line with Charlie and Bo. And I want to show everybody a short clip from the show. This was the show that debuted on Saturday. Here's a clip of you with Charlie and Larry.
So, Charlie, you already brought it up. 80, 08. I wasn't around for 80. I was around for 08. Who was the better team? Who would win?
Well, let's just compare their positions. My catcher was Bob Boone. My catcher was Ruiz, Chooch. My first baseman, Pete Rose. My first baseman was a big piece, Ryan Howie. My second baseman was Manny Trio. My second baseman was Chase Utley.
My heart.
My shortstop was me.
He's got confidence in that one.
Sam, that's got to be a lot of fun with those two guys. That is a lot of baseball knowledge right there with those two.
Oh, it's so much fun. And it's crazy to me because obviously I've known about the show probably since February, but it wasn't set in stone until like probably about maybe 2 months ago because of all the sponsorship and everything that goes into TV and all that stuff. But it's so surreal to me. When this got brought up to me, it was just a phone call. I was trying to get my real estate license because nobody in our field had any clue when broadcasting jobs would come back. I already lost my job at the station because of COVID. So it was just, I was not ready for it. And then a phone call came and was like, hey, you want to host a TV show with Charlie Manuel and Larry Bowa? And thank God it was over the phone because I'm trying to be professional, but it was like one of the things, my eyes lit up and you can't help but have happy tears, because like those names are so huge. And like I said, I mean, baseball is my whole world, especially now. My fiance's in the Pirates organization. So that, and then baseball's always been my number one in my professional career. And being my first television job, it was just, it's a ton of fun.
So is this going to be a series, or how's this going to work? What are you doing with it?
Yeah, so right now it's funny because me and Charlie, 100%, and probably Larry, we haven't even gone as far as actually talking about it, but we want to do it all the time. It's what NBC Sports and our production team and all them, what they decide. But right now we're signed on for 20 episodes, and they come out every single Saturday. So yeah, now May 29th was the first episode, and now until I guess it's like first or second week of October is what we're scheduled for now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I saw that you were down at Broad and Arch, I guess, and in the one part of the show, somebody just came by and starts talking to Charlie and Larry while you're interviewing them. Does that happen occasionally when you're out in public like that?
Yes, and I was not prepared for it. Obviously, everybody saw my reaction because I was just like, oh.
We're taping here.
Yeah, I know. It's so embarrassing. But yeah, it actually ended up happening so often because at first when that happened, I was like, oh, it's film. Like I've done live all the time, So I was like, oh, it's just like pre-recorded. We can just start over again. But as you saw later, it just kept happening. So I guess they just kept rolling with it because also with those guys, you want their raw reaction when you're getting those questions. Like the clip you showed was so amazing to me because, like I said in the clip, I wasn't around for the 80 team. And obviously I know all those classic names. But when he was saying them, I was like, it just kind of hit me. And I wasn't realizing all those names were on one team.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, no wonder they won the World Series back then. It makes sense now.
Yeah. Well, Sam, I've been fortunate enough to get to know a lot of people from a lot of different sports. No one is like baseball players. The stories that these guys tell, they spend, 162 games together plus spring training, and they travel together, and they like no one else. Baseball players are the best storytellers there are, and you got two great ones.
Oh, yeah. They spend, like you said, 8 to 9 months out of the year is with each other. And it is, my fiance's in the Pirates organization, like I said, so I live with them when we're not recording. And it is just such a different atmosphere because it's like family. Everybody's just best friends. You have to be able to feed it back and kind of have that relationship. And if you don't like somebody, you're going to get over it because you have to see them the entire time,
Sam, how many episodes have you filmed so far?
We filmed 5, and then this upcoming week, so I think it's the 7th to the 10th or the 11th or something, we will film 5 more episodes. So we're kind of doing it because both of the guys still work in the Phillies organization. So Charlie, I think his actual real home is in Clearwater, and he does a lot of stuff with the Clearwater Threshers, which is now I think Low A because they switched it around. But so they all do stuff within the minor leagues, but Charlie does a lot down there. So we try to cram it all in to their traveling schedule and the Phillies games and all that, because they still go to every single Phillies game. So it's tough.
Did Charlie talk about his time in Japan? I know he had a great time playing over in Japan.
So we've mentioned it a couple times, but we have not actually gotten into it. And it's one thing I'm dying to ask for one of the upcoming shows because it's so interesting to me. A guy like Charlie, you guys know, such a wholesome guy from Virginia, and then he goes over to Japan and thrives and becomes a national icon over there in their sport. So it is one thing I'm dying to ask.
Yeah.
So Sam, what's the time? When's the show? Give all the listeners some information.
Yeah, so it's on NBC Sports Philadelphia. It gets re-aired throughout the week, but new episodes premiere. It's supposed to be after Phillies post game every Saturday, but because of the Sixers schedule right now, it's kind of different. So that's why it debuted at noon last Saturday. And I guess it depends on the Sixers schedule and what they keep doing. So hopefully, keep us on your social media so that it goes everywhere and you can find it. But yeah, so I guess they're going to keep us at noon on Saturdays, but it will always be after Phillies post game shows.
And they rerun the shows a lot. As you know, you post the schedule. They're on a lot because they have a lot of time to fill up on NBC Sports Philly. So that's great.
Yeah.
I noticed you filmed on Broad Street, some of that as we discussed. And you're, of course, also a host or a co-host of the occasional podcast Babes on Broad. Are you and Jessie Town still continuing with that?
Yes, we are. She was actually just at my house. But yes, we are. Right now, it's kind of just hectic because she gets married exactly 1 month from today. And then I just, with Dion's season, and then I just moved into a house and renovated it and all that stuff. So we kind of are taking advantage of this off period of the Eagles, but we will pick back up in July.
All right.
Nice.
Hey, You mentioned social media. How can everyone follow you? Give us some places to watch what you're doing.
So mine's pretty easy. I'm at Sam Wills 18 on everything. So you can find me on there. And then at Babes on Broad, again, on Twitter and Instagram. And then at Down the Line with Charlie and Bo on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, everything.
Bill, let's do a fast five. What do you say?
Yeah, well, I was going to throw this at you, Sam. Chet has this thing where all of our first-time guests, he likes to do a little fast five, which 5 quick questions, 5 quick answers. You up for it?
I like it. I'm going to try. My brain's a little fried, but we're going to try it.
Oh, by the way, Sam, I met you at a couple of fan fests, as I mentioned, and there's a picture of you and me from 2019. Very nice to meet you there and talk to you. So welcome back. Anyway, fast five. Number 1, you mentioned rooting for the 2008 Phillies. We saw your reaction in the clip when Charlie mentioned Chase Utley. Was Chase your favorite Phil, or if not, who was?
Okay, so Chase was my first ever crush growing up. Still had a huge crush on him. But my favorite player was Ryan Howard. And I played softball my entire life as well. And I was number 6 because of Ryan Howard.
All right. Number 2, on the Babes on Broad Facebook page, I spotted a bunch of recipes. Are you a good cook, or whose recipes are they? What's your specialty?
Actually, Jess and I both are great cooks. And I mean, a lot of people picked it up in COVID, but my specialty, if you ask Dion, would probably be meatloaf. He loves my meatloaf, but I can make anything. I just really enjoy it. And I'm just one of those people, I'm terrible at posting recipes because I'm just like a little bit of this, a little bit of that, because I just eyeball it. But that's how you make good food.
Gotcha. Number 3, in the premiere episode of Down the Line with Charlie and Bo, there was a segment with both of the guys allegedly doing the rocky run up the art museum steps. I won't put anyone on the truth-o-meter about that, Sam, but I want to ask, have you ever made the rocky run up the art museum steps?
Oh, yeah, all the time growing up with my brother. We would do it, especially when we would go for the Christmas tree thing, because it was just so cool with the Christmas tree in the background. But yes, I don't think I did that day because I was wearing heels. I took it off for a little bit to walk to the top. But yeah, I've definitely run the steps before.
Number 4, the Sixers are, of course, the top seed in the NBA East. Now we got the Joel Embiid injury situation. How far will they go this postseason?
It's tough to say because that's one of the things I'm trying to get a feel on. Are they just giving us day to day to drag us on like they normally do, the Sixers medical team, or is it just really day to day?
Don't get Bill started on that, please.
Oh, I know. I think they'll still make it to the finals. I think they'll rally. I think Joel will come back as long as it doesn't get too bad. I think they'll make it to at least the finals, and I'm hoping they'd still win it. If Joel was healthy, they'd win it. But I'm hoping that they still.
Number 5, favorite sports movie of all time?
The Express.
Wow.
Yeah, actually, fun fact, my first ever car was a 1996 Honda Civic, and its name was Ernie, after Ernie Davis.
Oh my goodness.
That's
Sam, I have a
man right there. Love it.
I have a bonus question for you. Now, you mentioned you have a guy in your life. We're not going to talk about him, though. But because I follow you on Instagram and Twitter, I know there's also a very special lady in your life. What can you tell us about this young lady?
Wait, she's actually right here.
What a beautiful dog. Let's see her. Is she there?
Yes, ready? She's right here sleeping. She's my bestie. She's the perfect dog in this whole entire world. She's the best dog.
I love those pictures. Look at that.
I know, she's so big now, but yes, she's the best dog ever. And my fiance wants another one, but I don't know if I can handle another one because it's not going to be an angel like Nellie. So
Nellie, good old Nellie. All right, you did well. You passed.
I have one final question for you. You've mentioned your fiance and the Pittsburgh organization. Where's he playing? How's he doing? And when's he getting to the show?
Oh, so he actually was the top catching prospect. Now it's kind of messy. So he switched over. He asked to be switched over to outfield, and they actually kept him on AA Altoona. So he's right there now, and he just got activated. So he's starting to get back in the swing of things. But yeah, so he's in AA. Normally they would play Reading, but they cut it out this year because of COVID, which sucks. But
and his name is Dion what?
Stafford.
Dion Stafford. Gotcha.
Yep.
We'll check him out.
Awesome.
All right. Well, hey, Sam, we certainly appreciate you coming by. Great first time, and hopefully we get to do it again. And best of luck to what you got going on. You got some really cool things happening.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
All right.
Thank you, Sam. Take care.
You too.
Hey, Chet, that was a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
All right. If you let's check out I'm talking too much, Chet. Got me going the wrong direction here. Let's give a shout out to all the shows over at the Edge of Philly Sports Network, which you and I are part of. Bird's IQ every Monday at 7 p.m. live with Kyle and Eric Quinn talking Eagles. Edge of Philly Sports live with Joe, Freddie, and Big Al cover 4 for 4, and so much more Philly sports. They are live tonight, 7 p.m. or tonight, Wednesday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Join Tom Kelly and the gang at the Patterson Avenue Fanatics Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. talking all things Philly sports. You can check out all the shows at www.eopsports.com. Help us out by hitting those subscribe, follow, and like buttons. And as always, share with your family and friends. Don't forget to sign up for the weekly EOP newsletter that arrives each Friday by email. All right, Chet, ring that bell and let's do a little random chat. Why do I think I know where a lot of this is going tonight?
You know, we saw this guy earlier in the show, and I don't normally play the same clip twice in one show, but I'm gonna, because that's gonna be a perfect lead-in to what I'm gonna do right afterward. Here we go.
Hey, everybody, it's Willie Nile here, and you're listening to Chet and Bill on Philly Pressbox Radio. You lucky people.
Yeah, Bill, I got to tell you, despite the crappy weather, I had a fantastic Memorial Day weekend, family gatherings, plus seeing a movie in an actual theater for the first time in 15 months, and a concert indoors, first time in 16 months. And boy, that was a blast. You know who I'm talking about. It was our pal and a 3-time visitor to our Philly Pressbox radio show, the amazing Willie Nile. Here's a clip that I shot at the Ardmore Music Hall Saturday night. It's some of Willie doing his great song, Heaven Help the Lonely.
I was talking with my baby just around midnight. She said, come on out with me now. Everything will be alright. I said, you never know, I'm afraid of the dark. But she said, don't worry, baby, remember, you always have me. I said, yeah, but what should I do? She said, we got to we'll have a celebration all across the nation. I'll be holding you so tight. All the darkness will be gone. The whisper in your ear now. Whisper something to you now. But you and me only.
That is a guy right there who just belongs on stage performing. Now, during the intermission, I was talking with WMMR program director Bill Weston, and Bill said to me, Willie's just one of those guys, one of those rare artists who actually gets better with age. And I agree totally. Now, watch Willie here. This is more of that same song. This is instrumental at the end of that song, but he's just doing his thing, having a good old time, dancing.
I was talking with my baby.
I'm saying he's doing this thing with the crowd of fans enjoying the whole thing, the end of Heaven Help the Lonely. So, yeah, Willie was just so damn happy to be back in front of a live audience playing with his band. He mentioned it 5 times, how happy it was and how happy, he felt how great it was to be out in the public again. Thanking everyone for coming out, smiling from ear to ear a couple of times, putting his hand over his heart. Man, he's got a new album coming out in August. He and the band did a couple of the new songs at the show last weekend. They were both great. And by the way, Willie turns 73 this coming Monday night. There's Willie saying goodnight last Saturday night. You can see how happy he was. Happy birthday, Willie. Keep on rocking. And Willie, you're the best. And I have a hunch that we're going to talk to you.
Well, I think, Chet, you muted yourself again, however you managed to do that.
Oh, I was going to say, Willie is going to be 73 on Monday. So happy birthday, Willie. New album coming out in August, and I have a hunch we're going to talk to Willie again when that album comes out.
Oh, cool. Good deal. Okay, so one follow-up question. How excited were you to see Willie? Because you stated several times how excited he was. How excited were you?
Yeah, it was great. Like I said, first time in 16 months at an indoor show like that, and it was great. And they limited the audience to 100, 120 people. So it was, still kind of socially distant, but, spread out tables, but a nice crowd, a lot of familiar faces because Willie has like a cult following. So I knew several people who were there, and it was just great. It just felt normal again, Bill. I loved it.
Good deal. Good deal. Hey, we'll get the normal in a second, but before we do that, Tom Moore, as always, great. Sam Wilson was really good, Chet. Really good. Who you got coming to Philly Pressbox Radio next week?
Well, Bill, I just firmed the first guest up this morning, and it's a familiar face. And we're going to talk about the entire Philly sports scene with this guy. It's become something of an annual visit from him. His name is Neil Hartman, former Comcast Sportsnet anchor before it was NBC Sports Philly. Neil Hartman to talk about whatever the heck we want to talk to him about, including the Philly sports scene and his annual play-by-play camps that happen in the summer. And then, Bill, something very, very different, but interesting and entertaining nonetheless, where you're going to be joined by a U.S. Masters swimmer who has a terrific weekly podcast. And we're not going to talk much about swimming, but we will mention that, of course. But he has this podcast called The Luckiest People in the World. And you'll see why when we bring him on. His name is Ray Lowe, and somewhere I have a picture of him. He is 78 years young. Ray Lowe, the luckiest guy in the world and the host of the podcast, The Luckiest People in the World. I promise you will like him. It's going to be loads of fun. So that's next week's show, Neil and Ray.
Very cool. Yeah, I like different. Different is good.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. Hey, we talked, you just mentioned normal. I mentioned in the opening, stadiums are getting to be open. Beaver Stadium, Chet, included. Full capacity, Beaver Stadium, and throughout the Big Ten. What do you think? How excited are you? And my real other question as a follow-up, a lot of bad things have been said about professional sports. We'll leave it as professional sports over the last year. And a lot of people turned off by professional sports. You expecting full stadiums as soon as the opportunity comes because people have to get out and get back to normal?
I don't know if they're going to be 100% full, but I think they'll do very well. Now, of course, Beaver Stadium holds 107,000. I don't know if they're going to have that for every game. I mean, they open with Ball State. Not a lot of people from Ball State, I don't think, are going to come to Happy Valley. But, when you play the traditional Big Ten rivals, I think they're going to pack the joint once again. And it's just going to be so different from last year, when they were empty stadiums. So, yeah, a lot of people are going to be itching to get back. A lot of people have the season tickets. I think they'll do very well, at least 80% full, I think.
Yeah, well, I think so, too. I think people, what do you want to say? They had a reason to be mad, maybe, because they were home and they were stuck in the house. But the normal is going to these ball games. Now, the one thing is that, they may have found another way to spend their money rather than on tickets. That could be an issue, but it's going to be really interesting to see how it all plays out and see if these professional sports teams and leagues did damage to themselves.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, but I think they're going to come back. It might not be immediate. I mean, we certainly aren't seeing that with some of the other sports. Baseball now just opening up, so Citizens Bank Park will be a full house next week. I don't think they're going to have 45,000 right away, but especially, it's May, it's June now, but the Phillies aren't exactly lighting it up. So they're going to have to play better if they want to fill Citizens Bank Park.
Yeah. Well, I think it's going to be interesting to see. You mentioned to me before we came on there, do you have a few games scheduled to go to? I know you're excited about that.
Yeah, Phillies and Yankees in Philly on June 13th. And then that Philly sports trip that I mentioned previously, July 21st up to Yankee Stadium. So that'll be a whole lot of fun. And several concerts this summer. And Bill, I actually purchased tickets for an Eagles game, November 7th. Eagles Chargers at the Link. Tickets went on sale today, and I got them at a reasonable fair value price. Corner of the end zone, up high, but hey, it's fun to get to one game a year.
And you were able to get them through the Eagles.
Yes.
You didn't have to get them through a third party.
Exactly. They went on sale today, so that was the only game I could really go to with my schedule. So Sunday, November 7th, Eagles Chargers up in the Boondocks.
Gotcha. Hey, before we get to parting shot, Chet, 42-39 Wizards, 6:17 to go in the second quarter. High scorer so far is Curry with 9, Maxey with 9.
Let's wrap it up, and I'll get home and watch the second half. All
right. How about a parting shot for you? And then I got a couple things to add in here at the end.
Okay, I don't have a true parting shot, but I do want to mention a couple of things. The lovely Heidi Klum turns 48 today. Still lovely as heck. Jerry Matters, the Beaver, 73. I remember his mom, Barbara Billingsley, on the show saying, "Ward, I'm worried about the Beaver." Yes. I just always liked that line. And another birthday, Bill, that I have to mention because, the Stones are my favorite band. Ronnie Wood had a birthday yesterday, and today the legendary drummer Charlie Watts is 80 years old, and I think the Stones are going to tour once again next year, Bill, so they're not going away.
I have a birthday to add that you missed. Morgan Freeman, 84 years old today. Everybody knows Morgan, good actor, but it's that voice. But you know what? It's 84. I didn't think he was that old. I knew he was getting up there, but not 84.
The voice of God, and he's played God in the movie. And one other thing, Bill, happy birthday to Morgan Freeman. Look what I got. Finished business, and Ray's got a couple of book signings coming up in the next few days. He's got one tomorrow, actually, Thursday, at the Conshohocken Brewing Company. Glenn Macnow, a part owner. And then the other one Sunday that you posted about is happening as well.
Yep. And Lou Gehrig Day today, Chet. 80 years ago today, the
Wally Pitt
passed away. Yep. And one last final thing. I'm going to call this both of our parting shots before we run out of time. How would you like to be a teammate of that LeBron James who decides after you're getting your butt beat with 5 minutes left in the game, you decide it's time to go to the locker room?
I have no comment. I haven't been watching the Western Conference Finals, but yeah, LeBron has been another polarizing guy, much like Ben Simmons in this town with his play and some of the things that he says and does also.
Yeah, well, I've always been a big fan of his play because I always thought that he played hard.
He does, yeah.
He's gone off the rails with some stuff recently, but leaving your team on the bench with 5 minutes to go in the game, I don't care if you're down 100. That's a no-no.
That is not good. Let's wrap it up, Bill.
All right, I guess we'll do it. Let me see if I can get you one more quick update before we close it out, Chet. It is 45-44 Wizards, exactly 5 minutes to go in the second.
Okay, I'm going to see the whole second half. Awesome.
All right, my man. Let's thank tonight's special guests, Tom Moore and Sam Wilson. Our sponsors, the Irish Rover Station House, Bob Sullivan's LikeYourAge.com, PPCC 118 Raz Room, and Dave Lavoie of Allstate Insurance in Westchester. For Jim, Chet, Chesko, this is Bill Furman. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll join Philly Pressbox Radio next Wednesday night, June 9th at 7 p.m. You can see us live on Facebook, listen through our website, phillypressboxradio.com, on Blog Talk Radio, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and all the others. So let's go. High hopes, Philadelphia sports fans. And Chet, let's go Sixers.
Yeah.
Clap your hands, everybody, for Philadelphia 76ers. Stomp your feet, everybody.